The stars above Earth looked normal that Tuesday morning. People went to work, children played in parks, and birds sang in trees. Nobody knew that in 3 hours, everything would change forever. Commander Zix-7 stood on the bridge of his warship. His 6 eyes looked at the blue planet below. Earth, the 48th world his people would conquer. He clicked his mandibles together. This would be easy, like all the others. The Korthax Armada dropped out of hyperspace. 300 ships appeared above Earth's major cities. Each ship was made of dark crystal that seemed to drink in light. They hung in the sky like floating mountains. In New York, people stopped walking and stared up. Car horns honked as drivers forgot to move. A hot dog vendor dropped his tongs. Above the city, a ship the size of Central Park blocked out the sun. Jake Miller sat in Luna Base, Earth's military station on the moon. The Marine colonel had gray hair and tired eyes from 30 years of service. Alarms screamed around him. Red lights flashed on every screen. "Sir, we've got multiple contacts," shouted Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez. She was young but sharp. Her fingers flew over the controls. 300 alien vessels. They just appeared. Jake stood up straight. His coffee mug crashed to the floor. "Position of the fleet?" "Above every major city, sir. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow." Amy's voice cracked. "They're everywhere." In Tokyo, scientist Lisa Chen ran into her lab. The xenobiologist had waited her whole life to meet aliens. But not like this. Her assistant, Mike Chen, already had the radio on. "Alien ships have appeared above major cities worldwide," the announcer said. "The president is meeting with military leaders." Lisa grabbed her computer. "Mike, start recording everything. We need to understand who they are." "They're transmitting something," Mike said. His hand shook as he typed. The transmission filled every screen on Earth. A creature appeared. It stood 7 feet tall with a hard shell like a beetle. 6 eyes sat on its head. 4 arms ended in claws. When it spoke, the words came out like grinding metal. "People of Earth," Zix-7 said, "I am commander of the Korthax Empire. Your world now belongs to us. Surrender within 1 hour. Resistance means death. We have conquered 47 worlds. Yours will be the 48th. The transmission ended. In the Pentagon, General Paul Johnson slammed his fist on the table. The 60-year-old general had fought in 3 wars. He wouldn't give up without a fight. "Get me the president," he barked. "Call in everyone. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. Hell, call the Boy Scouts if they can hold a gun." Around the room, officers made phone calls. Maps lit up on screens. Fighter jets scrambled from bases. Nuclear submarines rose from the depths. In Luna Base, Jake Miller watched Earth through the window. The beautiful blue marble hung in space, surrounded by alien ships. "Orders from Earth Command," Amy said. "All units prepare for combat." Jake nodded. He'd trained for this his whole life, though he never thought it would happen. "Send a message to all Luna Base personnel. Tell them we're at war." Across Earth, the same scene played out. Soldiers ran to bases. Civilians fled cities. Governments met in bunkers. But some people didn't run. They stood on rooftops with cameras. They gathered in streets. They waited to see what would happen. 55 minutes passed. Earth didn't surrender. On his ship, Commander Zix-7 couldn't believe it. Every other world had given up immediately. The Zilnari surrendered in 12 minutes. The Proxima colonies in 20. But these humans hadn't even responded. "Commander," said Subcommander Vex-3. "The hour has passed." Zix-7's mandibles clicked. "Begin the attack. Show them the price of defiance." The Korthax ships opened fire. Energy beams shot toward Earth. The invasion had begun. But the Korthax didn't know one important thing. Humans had a word they'd never heard before. A word that would change everything. That word was no. Image description for Leonardo AI. Massive crystalline alien warships hovering over Earth's major cities. Dark angular vessels made of black crystal that absorb light. 7-foot-tall insectoid commander with 6 eyes and 4 arms standing on alien bridge. Earth's blue marble visible through viewports. Human military forces scrambling below. Fighter jets taking off. Dramatic lighting with alien ships casting shadows over cities. Photorealistic sci-fi scene. Cinematic composition. Detailed textures. Epic scale energy beams rained from the sky like deadly rain. Where they hit, buildings exploded into dust. Streets melted into glass. The Korthax expected humans to run and scream. They were half right. Humans ran, but not away. They ran toward the fight. Captain Amy Rodriguez led her squad through the ruins of New York. The young Marines followed her through smoke and fire. Above them, a Korthax drop pod crashed into Times Square. The metal egg cracked open. Alien soldiers poured out. "Take cover," Amy shouted. She dove behind a burned taxi. Alien energy weapons turned the air green. The taxi's metal bubbled and hissed. Private Danny Lee was only 19. He'd joined the Marines last year. Now he faced 7-foot aliens with weapons that could melt steel. But Danny remembered his grandfather's stories about World War II. Sometimes David beat Goliath. Danny grabbed 3 grenades from his belt. He pulled the pins and counted. 1, 2, 3. He rolled them under the alien walker's legs. The explosion shook the street. The walker stumbled and fell. Its pilot tried to stand, but Danny was already moving. He jumped on the walker's back and shoved his rifle into a joint. The bullets found something important. The walker stopped moving. "Nice work, Lee," Amy called. "Out." The other Marines cheered. 1 walker down, only thousands more to go. In the underground research lab, Mike Chen worked without sleep. His wife Lisa studied the alien transmissions. They'd learned the Korthax language in 12 hours. What they discovered worried them. "They really believe they're helping," Lisa said. She rubbed her tired eyes. "In their culture, conquest brings order. They think we'll thank them later." Mike shook his head. "Look at these battle reports. The vegan system surrendered in 6 hours. The Centauri colonies in 4. But we're still fighting after 3 days." On the screen, Korthax battle recordings played. Every other species had given up quickly. Not humans. Humans did strange things. They fought with kitchen knives when they ran out of bullets. They made bombs from household cleaners. They sang songs while shooting at alien tanks. Commander Zix-7 watched the battle reports with his 6 eyes. Something was wrong. Very wrong. His tactical computer showed impossible data. "Sub-Commander Vex-3, he clicked. "Explain these numbers." Vex-3's antennae drooped. "We've lost 47 walkers in 3 days. The humans destroy 1, study it, then destroy 3 more. They're learning faster than our computers predicted." Impossible. Lower species don't adapt this quickly. But the proof filled their screens. In Seattle, grandmother Karen Williams had hacked their communication network using a laptop and her grandson's gaming computer. She'd been a software engineer before retirement. Now she coordinated resistance cells across the West Coast. "Aliens talk on frequency 427.3, Karen told the resistance. "They don't use encryption. They think we're too stupid to listen." In Chicago, construction workers turned their equipment into weapons. Bulldozers with armor plating charged alien positions. Welders cut through Korthax armor. Even children helped, throwing rocks to distract alien sensors. The Korthax had never seen anything like it. When they conquered the Zilnari, survivors begged for mercy. When they took the Proxima colonies, the defeated built statues to honor their new masters. But humans? Humans got angry. In Florida, pilot Steve Parker stole a Korthax fighter. He'd been a crop duster before the war. Now he flew alien technology like he was born in it. His voice crackled over military radio. "These things fly like drunk turkeys," Steve laughed. "Watch this." He spun the fighter in ways the Korthax manual said were impossible. 3 enemy ships crashed trying to follow him. Human pilots took notes. Within hours, they all flew like maniacs. Zix-7 called an emergency meeting. His sub-commanders gathered. In the war room, their reports painted an impossible picture. "Humans don't follow the rules," Vex-3 said. "They fight when logic says surrender. They smile while dying. They make jokes during battle." "They're insane," said Vex-9. "All of them. An entire species of insane creatures. But Zix-7 wondered, were humans insane? Or was there something else? Something his empire had never encountered in 10,000 years of conquest. He thought about Private Danny Lee, who destroyed a walker with grenades and courage. About Karen Williams, the grandmother who broke their secure networks. About Steve Parker, who flew their fighters better than their own pilots. For the first time in his life, Commander Zix-7 felt something new. He wouldn't call it fear, not yet, but doubt crept into his mind like poison. The humans had a saying, "The fight isn't over until we say it's over." The Korthax were beginning to understand what that meant. Image description for Leonardo AI urban warfare scene, with human Marines fighting Korthax soldiers in destroyed New York Street. Alien drop pods crashed in Times Square. 7-foot insectoid, aliens in dark armor firing green energy beams. Human soldiers taking cover behind burned cars and rubble. Private Danny Lee jumping onto fallen alien walker, explosions and smoke, destroyed buildings in background. Mix of alien technology and human determination, gritty realistic style, dynamic action composition, debris and destruction everywhere. 3 weeks into the invasion, the impossible happened. The Korthax were losing ground. Not just losing. They were being pushed back by creatures they considered primitive. Commander Zix-7 stared at the battle map. Red dots showed Korthax positions. They used to cover all of Earth. Now they controlled less than half. In London, the resistance had taken back the entire city. Construction worker Jim Baker led the charge. He'd never held a gun before the invasion. Now he commanded 5,000 fighters. They called themselves the London Lions. "Remember," Jim told his team, "they expect us to fight like soldiers. So we fight like everything else instead." His fighters used the subway tunnels like ant colonies. They popped up behind enemy lines, attacked, then vanished underground. The Korthax scanners couldn't track them through tons of earth and concrete. In Moscow, the winter helped. The Korthax came from a warm world. Their equipment worked poorly in snow. Russian grandmother Olga Petrov noticed this first. She was 80 years old and had lived through harder times. "The space bugs don't like cold," she told the resistance, "so we make everything cold." Russians turned off heating in captured buildings. They broke water pipes to create ice. They led Korthax forces into frozen warehouses. Alien weapons failed. Alien armor cracked. Humans wrapped in fur coats finished the job. Karen Williams had bigger plans. The former software engineer now ran a network of hackers across Earth. They called it the Digital Resistance. Today was special. They'd found something important. "Listen up, everyone," Karen typed to her network. The Korthax used quantum encryption, but they made one mistake. They never changed their passwords. Teenagers in basements, professors in universities, hackers in hidden bunkers all worked together. They broke into Korthax supply networks. Suddenly, alien food shipments went to empty fields. Ammunition arrived at human bases. Medical supplies disappeared completely. Sub-Commander Vex-3 tried to explain to headquarters. "The humans corrupt our systems. They learn too fast. Yesterday they couldn't understand our language. Today they're writing virus programs in it." On the Korthax homeworld, the High Command watched in shock. Never in 10,000 years had this happened. Conquered species always stayed conquered. They didn't fight back weeks later, they didn't get stronger. In Tokyo, Dr. Lisa Chen made a discovery that changed everything. She'd studied captured Korthax technology for weeks. Working with engineer Betty Martinez, they found something amazing. "Look at this," Lisa said. She held up an alien power cell. "Their shields use magnetic fields, but Earth's magnetosphere interferes with them. That's why their personal shields keep failing." Betty grinned. "So we make that interference stronger?" Within days, human forces had new weapons. They looked like jerry-rigged junk. Old microwave ovens attached to car batteries. Television parts, wired to laptop computers. But they worked. The electromagnetic pulses made Korthax shields useless. The first major human victory came in Sydney. Captain Steve Parker led a mixed force of military and civilians. They faced a full Korthax battalion. The aliens expected easy victory. They got a surprise instead. Human pulse weapons fired. Korthak's shields flickered and died. Then came the real attack. Soldiers, police officers, firefighters, and ordinary citizens charged together. The Korthaks had never seen enemies who smiled while attacking. "For Earth!" Steve shouted. The battle cry echoed across the city. The Korthaks' line broke. For the first time in their history, they retreated in disorder. Commander Zik-7 watched the footage over and over. His compound eyes focused on human faces. They showed fear, yes, but also joy, determination, hope, emotions his species didn't understand. "They enjoy this," he said quietly. "They're afraid, but they enjoy the challenge." Vex 3 clicked nervously. "Should we request reinforcements?" "From where? We brought our best. They're learning faster than we can adapt." Around Earth, the pattern repeated. Humans didn't just resist, they innovated. Children drew pictures mocking Korthak soldiers. Musicians wrote songs about victory. Artists painted murals of humans standing over defeated aliens. The psychological effect was devastating. Korthak soldiers began to hesitate. They'd conquered galaxies through fear, but humans laughed at them, made jokes, turned their invasion into entertainment. In New York, Private Danny Lee had been promoted to sergeant. He trained new fighters using captured alien weapons. His students included teachers, store clerks, and taxi drivers. "Remember," Danny said, "they think we're primitive. That's our advantage. They never expect the crazy stuff we do." His students nodded. They'd learned the human way of war. Be unpredictable. Be creative. Be absolutely insane by alien standards. Commander Zik-7 sent his daily report to Korthak's High Command. His words would shock the Empire. Request immediate withdrawal. Humans possess unprecedented adaptation ability. Victory probability dropping daily. They become stronger through conflict. Recommendation: declare Earth a restricted zone. Hidai. Never written such words before. No Korthak's commander had. But the evidence surrounded him. Humans weren't just winning battles. They were enjoying them. The hunter was becoming the hunted, and the prey had very sharp teeth. Image description for Leonardo AI. Human resistance fighters celebrating victory in Sydney Harbor. Mixed group of soldiers and civilians holding improvised electromagnetic weapons made from household items. Fallen Korthak soldiers in background. Australian landmarks visible. Humans smiling and cheering while holding jury-rigged microwave guns. Captain Steve Parker leading the charge. Korthaks retreating in disorder. Urban battlefield with damaged alien equipment. Bright daylight scene showing human triumph. Dynamic composition showing the moment of victory. Dr. Alan Foster hadn't slept in 4 days. The physicist worked in an underground bunker that used to store wine. Now it held humanity's hope. He stared at the captured Korthak's generator on his workbench. Something about it bothered him. "Betty, come look at this," he called to engineer Betty Martinez. She'd been his partner since the invasion started. Together, they'd figured out more alien technology than anyone else on Earth. Betty studied the device. Her eyes widened. "Is that what I think it is?" "Their power system resonates at a specific frequency," Alan said. "But watch what happens when I expose it to Earth's magnetic field variations." He flipped a switch. The alien generator sparked and died. Just like that. No explosion. No drama. It simply stopped working. "Oh my God," Betty whispered. "Their entire technology has the same weakness." Within hours, they'd built a prototype weapon. It looked like a satellite dish made from garbage. Old radar components, microwave parts, and copper wire held together with duct tape. But when they tested it, every Korthak's device within 50 yards shut down. The news spread faster than wildfire. In Berlin, former electrician Otto Schmidt built 20 units in his garage. In Mumbai, college students made hundreds more. The weapons were ugly, but they worked. Commander Zik-7 watched his equipment fail across the planet. Shields collapsed, weapons stopped firing. Even their ships had trouble staying airborne. The primitive humans had found their greatest weakness: How? Vex 3 asked. We've conquered 47 worlds. None found this flaw. Zik 7's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Because none fought like humans. Others surrendered quickly. Humans kept fighting and learning. In Paris, spy Jim Baker led a different kind of mission. The former CIA agent had spent weeks studying Korthak's behavior. He'd noticed patterns. The aliens always ate at the same times. They always slept in the same positions. They never, ever changed routines. They're predictable, Jim told his team. Like machines with flesh, we can use that. His spies infiltrated Korthak's camps dressed as servants. The aliens never suspected. Why would they? No conquered species had ever spied on them before. The humans learned patrol routes, shift changes, and command structures. The intelligence went straight to military commanders. General Paul Johnson used it to plan Operation Turning Tide. 50 coordinated strikes hit Korthak's positions worldwide. Each attack came during shift changes when the aliens were most vulnerable. In California, teacher Maria Lopez led a different revolution. She'd noticed Korthak's soldiers flinch when humans laughed. It confused them, scared them even. So she organized the strangest weapon in human history, comedy shows. Make fun of them, she told her performers. Show them we're not afraid. Comedians performed on street corners. Children drew silly pictures of Korthaks tripping over their own feet. Radio stations played songs mocking the invaders. The psychological effect was devastating. Sub-Commander Vex 9 reported to his commander. The humans mock us. Our soldiers' morale drops daily. They fear being laughed at more than being shot. Meanwhile, in orbit, pilot Steve Parker led humanity's first space offensive. He'd taught other pilots his crazy flying techniques. Now 30 humans flew captured Korthak's fighters like stunt planes. Remember, Steve told his wing, their computers say these moves are impossible, so their pilots won't expect them. The dogfight over Earth shocked both sides. Human pilots flew upside down, sideways, and in spirals that made physicists cry. Korthak's pilots, trained for 10 years in rigid formations, couldn't adapt. One by one, their fighters fell. On the ground, Sergeant Danny Lee watched the aerial battle. His unit had just captured a Korthak's command post. Inside, they found something incredible. Star maps. The entire Korthak's empire laid out. 6 months had passed since the Korthaks arrived. Now they huddled in defensive positions while humans prepared Operation Prometheus. General Paul Johnson stood before the world's leaders in the rebuilt United Nations building. The plan was simple. The execution would be historic. We don't just defend anymore, Johnson said. We attack. We take the fight to space. Behind him, screens showed humanity's new fleet. Captured Korthak ships modified with human creativity. Pulse weapons bolted to hulls. Armor made from tank plating. Fighter pilots who learned to fly by playing video games. Steve Parker got the honor of leading the first wave. The crop duster turned ace pilot stood before his squadron. 30 men and women who'd never left Earth's atmosphere before the war. Now they prepared to fight in space. Remember your training, Steve said. The Korthaks fly by computer. We fly by instinct. Up there, crazy winds. The launch began at dawn. Human ships rose from hidden bases worldwide. They looked like junk compared to Korthak's vessels. Welding marks showed. Paint was scratched. Some had duct tape holding panels together. But they flew. In orbit, Sub-Commander Vex 3 watched the human fleet approach. Impossible, he clicked. Those ships shouldn't even fly. Their designs violate 12 safety protocols. Commander Zik 7 knew better now. Human engineering doesn't follow our rules. Prepare for battle. The space battle over Earth was unlike anything in galactic history. Korthak ships flew in perfect formations. Human ships flew like drunken bees. They spun, rolled, and changed direction without warning. Yee-haw, Steve Parker shouted over the radio. His fighter dove between 2 Korthak's cruisers. They tried to track him and crashed into each other. Sorry, boys, didn't mean to make you kiss. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez led the Marine boarding teams. Their target, the Korthak's command carrier. Using stolen shuttles, they approached from the ship's blind spot. The aliens never expected anyone to board during battle, another rule humans ignored. Breach in 3, Amy told her team. The Marines attached magnetic charges to the hull. The explosion opened a hole big enough for 20 soldiers. They poured inside. The ship's corridors were built for 7-foot aliens. Humans had to jump to reach control panels, but they'd trained for this. Each Marine carried pulse weapons that shut down Korthak's technology. They moved through the ship like angry hornets. On the bridge, Vex 3 watched security feeds in horror. They're not following assault protocols. They're making it up as they go. Amy's team reached the bridge doors. Private Danny Lee, now battle-hardened, placed charges. Fire in the hole. The doors blew inward. Marines rushed the bridge. Pulse weapons fired. Korthak's equipment died. In minutes, humans controlled the enemy flagship. Meanwhile, on Earth, coordinated strikes hit every Korthak's base. In Egypt, rebels rode camels carrying pulse cannons. In Brazil, jungle fighters used zip lines to attack from above. In Norway, fishermen turned their boats into torpedo launchers. Dr. Lisa Chen watched from her lab. She'd spent months learning Korthak's biology. Now she noticed something odd. Captured aliens weren't angry or defiant, they seemed curious. Mike, look at this, she told her husband. Their brain scans show fascination, not fear. Mike studied the data. They're trying to understand us, like we're some impossible puzzle. In space, the battle turned into a rout. Human pilots discovered Korthak ships had emergency beacons that couldn't be turned off. They used this to play cosmic hide-and-seek. Korthak's commanders went insane trying to track enemies who appeared and vanished like ghosts. Admiral Nancy Clark commanded humanity's flagship, a converted Korthak's battleship renamed Earth's Pride. Her crew had painted shark teeth on the bow. Inside, Marines had hung fuzzy dice from control panels. It was the most unprofessional warship in the galaxy. It was also winning. All units press the attack, Nancy ordered. Don't let them regroup. The Korthaks tried every tactic in their 1,000-year-old playbooks. None worked. Humans didn't fight like any species they'd conquered. When outnumbered, humans attacked harder. When surrounded, they laughed and called it a target-rich environment. Sub-Commander Vex 9 sent a desperate message to Korthak's high command. The humans are insane, all of them. They enjoy danger. They make jokes while dying. They turn war into entertainment. Commander Zix 7 stood on his damaged bridge, watching his empire's greatest fleet lose to modified garbage trucks with engines. He felt something his species rarely experienced. Respect. Order all units, he said quietly. Full retreat. We cannot win against madness that has method. But retreat wasn't easy. Human ships chased them like wolves. Earth's children, who'd never seen stars up close before, now owned the space around their world. And in the command center, General Johnson received reports from around the globe. Cairo, liberated. Tokyo, free. London, Korthak surrendering in droves. Paris, aliens asking for asylum. Sir, an aide reported. We've captured something else. Their entire fleet database. It shows routes to every world in their empire. Johnson smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. Good. Phase 1 is complete. Earth is free. Time for Phase 2. He looked at the star maps. 47 conquered worlds waited out there. Worlds that had given up hope. Worlds that didn't know humans existed. Send a message to all resistance cells, Johnson ordered. Tell them we're not done. Tell them we're going to return the favor. Every world the Korthaks conquered is about to learn what Earth learned. He paused, thinking of all the species living in chains. Freedom is contagious, and we're about to start an epidemic. Image description for Leonardo AI epic space battle above Earth showing human-modified ships attacking Korthak's fleet, jury-rigged human vessels with welded armor and shark teeth painted on hulls, Steve Parker's fighter doing impossible maneuvers between enemy cruisers, Marines in spacesuits boarding Korthak's command ship, Earth visible in background, explosions, and laser fire. Mix of sleek alien vessels and improvised human ships with duct tape and mismatched parts. Dynamic action scene with multiple ships engaged in chaotic combat. The news of Earth's victory spread through the galaxy like wildfire. On conquered worlds, species that had given up hope suddenly heard an impossible story. A primitive planet had defeated the Korthax. The masters of the galaxy were running from creatures called humans. On Zilnar Prime, the blue-skinned inhabitants whispered in their slave camps. They'd been conquered 80 years ago. 3 generations had known only Korthax rule. Elder Vimka gathered the young ones close. The Earth creatures fight differently, she said. They laugh at danger. They make weapons from garbage. They don't know when to give up. Her grandson, Tilka, listened with wide eyes. Could we do that too? Before Vimka could answer, the sky exploded with light. Human ships dropped from hyperspace. Admiral Nancy Clark's fleet had arrived. This is Earth Fleet Command. Nancy's voice boomed across all frequencies. To all enslaved species, we're here to help. To all Korthax forces, surrender or run. Your choice. The Korthax garrison on Zilnar Prime had 200 soldiers. They faced something they'd never seen. Hope. The Zilnari slaves stood straighter. Their eyes showed life again. When the first human shuttles landed, the garrison was already retreating. Captain Amy Rodriguez led the ground forces. Her Marines expected a fight. Instead, they found thousands of Zilnari waiting peacefully. Many were crying, not from sadness, but joy. Are you really here? Elder Vimka asked. Did you really beat them? Amy smiled and showed her a captured Korthax helmet. We did. And now we're going to teach you how. The same scene played out across the galaxy. Human ships arrived at conquered worlds with weapons, supplies, and most importantly, instructors. They taught species how to fight back, how to think differently, how to hope. On the desert world of Saxus, the reptilian natives had tried to resist before. They'd failed every time. Now Marine Sergeant Danny Lee showed them human tactics. Forget their rules, Danny told the Saxus warriors. Make your own. You live in deserts? Use that. Bury weapons in sand, attack during sandstorms, be unpredictable. The Saxus learned fast. Within days, they'd taken back 3 cities. They painted human slogans on their walls. No surrender. Freedom or death. Korthax go home. But humans did more than teach warfare. On the ice planet Gelid, engineer Betty Martinez helped rebuild power systems. The Korthax had kept the natives cold and weak. Betty showed them how to build heaters from Korthax scrap metal. See? Their junk becomes your salvation, Betty explained. Everything they used to control you can be turned against them. Word spread, faster than the human fleet could travel. Slave species started revolting before Earth ships arrived. They used human tactics learned from smuggled videos. Kitchen knives became weapons. Mining equipment became siege engines. Even children joined by throwing rocks at Korthax patrols. Commander Zix-7 watched from his homeworld. The reports painted a picture of total collapse. An empire that took 10,000 years to build was falling in months. How? Vex-3 asked. We had more ships, better weapons, superior technology. Zix-7 pointed to a screen showing laughing humans teaching aliens to dance. We conquered bodies. Humans liberate spirits. Which is stronger? The revolution took on a life of its own. Species that had been enemies united against the Korthax. Ancient feuds were forgotten. Everyone wanted what humans had. Freedom. On Earth, President John Davis addressed the United Nations. Behind him hung flags from 20. President John Davis stood before the largest gathering in human history. Representatives from 37 free worlds filled the hall. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some had scales, others fur. But all had one thing in common. Humans had helped them find freedom. Today we launch Operation Liberty Road, Davis announced. Not to conquer, but to complete what we started. Every world deserves freedom. Every species deserves choice. The plan was ambitious. Human fleets would strike the Korthax core worlds, not to destroy but to liberate. Even the conquerors would be offered freedom from their own empire. Admiral Nancy Clark commanded the United Fleet. Her flagship, Earth's Pride, led ships from every free world. Zilnari cruisers flew beside human fighters. Saxus destroyers flanked Tenna supply ships. The galaxy had never seen such unity. "All ships prepare for jump," Nancy ordered. "Today we end 10,000 years of fear." The fleet jumped to hyperspace, their target, the Korthax Military Academy on Vorthan Prime. For millennia, it had trained conquerors. Now it would learn about liberation. The battle was swift. Korthax defenses, built to stop traditional attacks, couldn't handle the chaos of united species. Humans flew like maniacs. Zilnari used precision strikes. Saxus attacked from underground. Tenna pilots sang war songs while bombing targets. Colonel Jake Miller led the ground assault. His force included humans and 20 other species. They moved through the academy like a rainbow of destruction. But they followed human rules. No unnecessary killing. Protect civilians. Offer surrender. "Lecture hall secured," Amy Rodriguez reported. "You're not going to believe this, sir. The cadets aren't fighting. They're taking notes." Jake rushed to see. Indeed, young Korthax sat at desks watching humans fight. They wrote observations in rapid clicks. Their instructor, an old Korthax general, had stopped teaching war. He was teaching adaptation. "You see?" The general clicked at his students. "Humans fight with joy. They protect enemies. They share victory. This is why they win." The scene repeated across Korthax worlds. The Empire's citizens had never seen invaders who helped. Human medics treated Korthax wounded. Engineers fixed civilian infrastructure. Teachers shared knowledge freely. On the Korthax homeworld, panic gripped the High Command. Their greatest fortress world, Blackstone, had fallen in 6 hours, not to weapons but to ideas. The garrison had simply stopped fighting when they saw former slaves fighting alongside humans. "We need a new strategy," Subcommander Vex 3 urged. "Perhaps negotiation?" The High Chancellor, Zix Prime, had ruled for 2 centuries. He'd never considered surrender. But now he watched his empire dissolve like sugar in rain. Meanwhile, pilot Steve Parker led a special mission. His target wasn't military. It was a Korthax nursery world where their young were raised. The High Command expected humans to use it as leverage. Instead, Steve's team brought supplies, food, medicine, toys. The Korthax caregivers prepared to die defending their charges. They found humans playing with Korthax children. "They're kids," Steve explained to a confused caregiver. "Kids aren't enemies. They're just kids." Videos of humans playing with Korthax young spread across the galaxy. The propaganda impact was devastating. Species saw their conquerors' children laughing with human soldiers. Fear turned to pity. Anger became understanding. Dr. Lisa Chen had predicted this. "We're not defeating the Korthax," she told Earth's leaders. "We're healing them." Their empire was built on fear, their own fear, fear of being weak, fear of losing control. She was right. Korthax society began to change. Soldiers questioned orders. Citizens demanded reforms. The rigid hierarchy that had lasted 10,000 years cracked like ice in spring. On Korthax Prime, demonstrations filled streets. Not violent riots, but peaceful protests. They carried signs with human slogans translated into clicks and whistles. "Freedom for all. Choose peace. No more fear." Commander Zix 7 watched from his palace. He'd led the failed invasion of Earth. Now he saw his own. People copying human methods. The irony wasn't lost on him. "What do we do?" Vex 3 asked. "We learn," Zix 7 replied. "The humans taught the galaxy to resist. Now they're teaching us to change." The Liberation War became something else. A transformation. Species that had been enemies became allies. Worlds that had never known peace discovered cooperation. The galaxy wasn't just free, it was united. Human ships no longer arrived as conquerors or even liberators. They came as teachers and friends. The revolution had become evolution. Fear had become hope. An empire had become a community. General Paul Johnson received reports from across the galaxy. Every Korthax world had fallen or joined voluntarily. The war was nearly over, but the real work was beginning. "Remember," he told his staff, "we didn't do this to rule. We did it to free. Now comes the hard part, keeping everyone free." Outside, the stars shone on a changed galaxy, one where the strong protected the weak, where different meant interesting, not dangerous, where laughter was the most powerful weapon. The last empire in the galaxy was falling, and from its ashes, something better was rising, something humans had sparked but everyone had built, a galaxy where no one would invade anyone again, because everyone had learned the human secret. Together was stronger than alone, and free was better than safe. Image description for Leonardo AI. Massive united fleet above Korthax military world. Diverse spacecraft from multiple species flying in formation. Earth's pride leading human, Zilnari, Saxus, and Tenna vessels. Rainbow, coalition of liberated species ships. Korthax Academy visible below with mixed ground forces advancing. Some Korthax cadets visible taking notes instead of fighting. Peaceful demonstrations in alien city streets. Banners with freedom in various alien scripts. Unity between former enemies. The Great Council Chamber on Korthax Prime had seen 10,000 years of conquest declarations. Today it would witness something different. Commander Zix-7, the same Korthax who'd invaded Earth, stood before the assembly. Across from him sat Admiral Jake Miller, the human who'd helped defeat him. The chamber filled with representatives from every world. Former slaves sat beside former masters. Species that had fought for millennia now shared tables. At the center, President John Davis of Earth prepared to speak. "We gather not as conquerors and conquered," Davis began, "but as equals. The old galaxy is dead. Today we birth a new one." Zix-7 clicked his mandibles for attention. The room fell silent. The former conqueror who'd learned defeat from humans had something to say. "My people ruled through fear," Zix-7 said. "We believed strength meant dominance. We conquered 47 worlds. Then we met Earth." He paused, his 6 eyes scanning the room. "Humans taught us something impossible. Strength means protecting others. Power means lifting others up. We were the last species to invade Earth because humans made sure no one would invade anyone again." Jake Miller stood up. The man who'd first fought Zix-7 now extended his hand. "Commander, the war is over. Will you help us build peace?" Zix-7 had never shaken hands before. The gesture didn't exist in Korthax culture, but he'd learned from humans. His claw met Jake's hand carefully. "We will learn," Zix-7 promised. "As you taught the galaxy to fight, now teach us to heal." The following month saw unprecedented change. Korthax technology, once used for conquest, now connected worlds. Former warships became cargo vessels. Weapons factories made farming equipment. The Empire's knowledge was shared freely. On Zilnar Prime, Elder Vimka worked with Korthax engineers to rebuild cities. Her grandson Tilka played with Korthax younglings. Old enemies became new neighbors. "Funny," Vimka told a Korthax worker. "You enslaved us for 80 years. Humans freed us in 8 months. Now we work together. Life is strange." The Korthax worker, once a soldier, nodded. "Humans showed us fear makes enemies. Trust makes friends. We choose friends now." Earth became the galaxy's university. Species sent their young to learn human ideas. Not just warfare, but art, music, laughter. The planet that had been marked for conquest became the center of galactic culture. Dr. Lisa Chen ran the Xenological Institute. She studied how species adapted to freedom. Her research showed something amazing. Every species responds differently, she told the Galactic Council, but all thrive when given choice. Freedom isn't just a human thing, it's a universal need. The Korthax transformed most dramatically. Their rigid hierarchy softened. Young Korthax learned to paint, sing, even tell jokes. The species that had known only discipline discovered play. In the frontier worlds, former slave species built new colonies. Humans helped but didn't lead. Each world found its own path. Some became democracies. Others tried new systems. All were free to choose. Captain Amy Rodriguez, now an ambassador, visited these worlds. She found gardens where slave camps had been, schools where prisons stood, hope where fear had ruled. "You did this," a young Saxus told her. "Humans showed us how." Amy shook her head. "We just opened the door. You walked through it yourselves." 5 years passed. The Galactic Federation replaced the Korthax Empire. Earth held no special position, one voice among many, but everyone remembered who'd started the change. On the anniversary of liberation, Zik-7 addressed the Federation. He wore not military armor but civilian clothes. The transformation was complete. "I invaded Earth expecting easy victory," he said. "I found something else, a species that fought not for conquest, but for principle, that protected enemies, that shared victo,